Hello, welcome back to the Forbidden Land podcast. So, about a month and a half ago, I made an episode on the Israeli Hamas conflict. And then, about a month ago, not a month ago, a few weeks ago, I made another episode where me and John uh, talked about the conflict a little further, along with other political related things. And the more information that comes out, the more I am like, well, shit, the info I was talking about in my episode is so unbelievably outdated now. And I feel a lot more thoughts about it. I've researched a lot more about this conflict. I know a lot more about the history. If I hear another person say to me, well, what about 2,000 years ago when so and so did this and so did that? I don't care. So my history on it starts in the early 1900s, and that's where it should start because the Palestinians lived there for centuries, and Israel is a direct result of British colonialism. Everything Israel has done with the full support of European nations and the US has spawned out of colonialism. It's spawned out of racism. And I'm far more educated on the topic. One thing I would like to talk about is the thing that fired me up for the original episode was that I saw a story where allegedly the IDF launched a missile at a hospital in the Gaza Strip and killed everyone in it. Now, at the time, it has been widely reported that news agencies and you know, people writing articles and whatnot, it's possible now, based on the evidence of like the crater that was formed, it is now possible that the IDF is not responsible. However, the IDF has not shown any evidence really on their side that it wasn't them. And also, it's very understandable why it would be reported this way. No one's allowed in Gaza to do on the ground reporting. A lot of the reporting you do see is from sources from the Gazan Health Ministry or the IDF directly. And that is by design. The IDF doesn't want you to know what's really going on in Gaza. And so they go, oh, well, the Gazan Health Ministry is Hamas, and you can't trust Hamas. But you could unequivocally, with no evidence, trust us. And so that's kind of by design. And so it was reported that way based on the pictures, based on the video, based on the track record of the IDF bombing other hospitals, and the fact that they had also blown up a piece of this hospital days prior. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that we would assume it was the IDF. So, with that out of the way, because I have to mention that because Zionists will not shut up about us maybe getting that wrong. And when I say us, I mean anti-Zionist and leftist. They will not shut their mouths about how we might have gotten that wrong. And they use that as an excuse because they want to deflect from the many other hospitals the IDF has confirmed bombed. Like, why is the IDF attacking Al Shifa? why is it attacking all these high profile hospitals? But y'all want to be like, oh, but this, y'all got it wrong about this one hospital. It's semantics, and it's stupid, and it's deflection. It's another weak argument to further push for genocide in the Gaza Strip. So, I believe the current number. Let me actually get this right, because I looked at it last week. And there was a ceasefire. Death toll in Gaza. What's the current death toll? Okay, so it has gone up. It seems to be estimated that over 15,000 people have been killed in the Gaza Strip, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. And then here, I'll show it on the screen even. The death toll for Israel is only 1,200, which is how many people were killed on October 7th. That number might have actually gone up, and not because of Hamas, but because oh wow, I'll read that in a second. I don't want to get sidetracked. It's possible that number has gone up because of the IDF, the IDF's relentless bombing of the Gaza Strip. Based on the ceasefire and the hostage release, all the hostages were still in northern Gaza, which just goes to show what an abject failure the Israeli foreign policy has been. That they made everyone evacuate northern Gaza, bombed the entirety of northern Gaza, then started bombing everywhere else, started bombing these hospitals, raiding these hospitals, bombing these schools, neighborhoods, all these places. And then it turns out Hamas is still in northern Gaza, still has the hostages in northern Gaza, meaning they attacked all those hospitals for no reason. Hamas was not under the hospitals. They were not in the hospitals. They were still in northern Gaza. It says here an anonymous military officer estimated 5,000 Hamas fighters have been killed. So let's go off of this number, right? Sure. Let's give them this number. From what I've heard, that number is actually far lower. So let's go ahead. So it's just the disproportionate amount of, like, why did 15,000 Palestinians have to die to kill 5,000 Hamas fighters? You get what I'm saying here? I did the equation wrong, but like just the two numbers next to each other kind of proves my point. What's the actual number? I know there's an actual number estimated by human rights groups that it's actually far lower. They've killed far lower amounts of Hamas militants. It says here that 184 Palestinians have been killed since the truce ended on Friday. So yeah, it looks like the ceasefire's over. Yeah, it's just obvious that Bibi Netanyahu does not care about the hostages, and just wants to continue his ethnic cleansing campaign. So I'm getting a little sidetracked. So, I believe that like a bunch of human rights groups are estimating that actually the real death toll is a little over 20,000, from what I've read. Which, if that's true, that's, I mean, 15,000's a lot. 20,000 is just, it's objectively worse. Granted, both of them are in the thousands, and it's already pretty horrible. And so I've been doing research on the history of this entire conflict. And uh the history of Israel is insanely anti-Semitic. I We were always taught in school that the state of Israel was established as a response to um, World War II, as a response to the Nazi Germany Holocaust, and it turns out that Israel was in the works well before that. I had some idea of that, but not the. I didn't know the like true origins of that. So the Palestinian territory was uh basically like far down on the list. Britain in 1917 was like, all right, we got to send y'all somewhere. Now, listen to how anti Semitic that is. Europeans didn't like Jews so much that they were like, we will literally ship y'all anywhere. Choose a place. And the Zionist Council was like, no to Uganda, no to all these other places, and then eventually settled on the Palestinian territory. And so, um, how insane is that? The origins of trying to find a Jewish state for the Jewish people of Europe. Um, the origins behind that are that they just wanted to kick all the Jews out of Europe. Like, imagine it for a second, right? Mexico doesn't exist. It's like it's like another white English speaking country, right? Or actually, let me spin it around. Hmm. Mexico exists, and I was gonna take it one way, and I decided not to. I'm gonna pick a more similar scenario. Let's say the U.S. is like, we got to get these Muslims out of here, and we basically annex a part of Mexico and displace all of those Mexicans, and we put the Muslim people there, and then they form an Islamic state, and then they just start consuming more Mexican land. It's kind of like that in like an interesting like way. Like we kicked them out because we're Islamophobic. Um, but then like history ends up being whitewashed into thinking like, oh, it was actually to make them safer, to get them away from the dangerous Nazis. Um, which definitely sped things along, but wasn't the sole reason for the creation of Israel. So, fast forward to 1947, and the Nakba happens, and it's basically the Palestinian equivalent to the Trail of Tears, except imagine that then they burn down and destroy every piece of Palestinian uh, like homes or literally anything. I don't even think we went that far here. I mean, the Trail of Tears is horrible, but I think we kept a decent amount of stuff. I don't think we went like full scorched earth on native land, unless you count deforestation. I'm getting off track. Um, so the Nakba happens, and in the 60s, Israel pretty much invades Palestinian territory and takes control of the Gaza Strip and the West Bank. And, you know, over the next few decades, there's obviously conflict. And then in 2008, Israel provokes an attack from the Palestinians. The Hamas attacks back, and then Israel launches a full military operation against Hamas. And then it happens again and again. And this is the worst one. This one, obviously, the reason why they went harder is because of the scale of Hamas's attack on Israel this time, but it's not like it was unprovoked. Earlier this year, Israel even provoked Hamas a little bit by attacking them. So this didn't just like fall out of the fucking sky. It's not like, you know, Hamas just woke up one day and went, we want to kill some Israelis. Like, it's not like that's what happened. There are reasons for these things. It's like whenever you hear, like someone say, like, take it in America, for instance, because Israel is calling this their 9/11. In America, after 9/11, the war on terror basically uses the excuse that Osama bin Laden and Al Qaeda hate freedom. They woke up one morning and went, ugh, we're sick of all this freedom in America. And then they launched this super coordinated, massive scale attack. All because they hated our freedom, which, like, arguably there are freer countries on this planet. So why wouldn't they go after them? So once you start there, you start to see the cracks forming in that argument. Well, yeah, there are freer countries. Why not go after Canada? Why not go after, the Netherlands, or go after the UK or something like that? And then you learn that, well, it's because we funded them as freedom fighters to fight against the Soviets. Then we but we sent troops to Saudi Arabia. Osama bin Laden did not like that. We pretty much abandoned his freedom fighters. And so, and during the Gulf War, Osama bin Laden starts to resent the U.S. And so, there's a whole list of stuff behind that. It's not like he just woke up one day and went, what if we sent some guys to America and trained to learn how to fly a plane, and then we fly a bunch of planes into stuff in America? Like, that's not how that works. There were obvious motives. Am I saying 9/11 was good? No. Am I saying the October 7th attack on Israel is good? No. But I'm saying there are reasons for these things. In a roundabout way, you can blame Israel. And when I say Israel, I'm talking about the government. You can blame the IDF and Netanyahu's extremist, racist policies on that attack. The victims of that attack even agree with that sentiment. The people in those communes hold that exact same opinion. So I'm not like some uneducated moron saying this. The people that were like in this attack, who suffered through this attack, they agree with that point. And so, sorry, I'm drinking water during this. So, so now I want to talk about Bibi Netanyahu, because I thought about it earlier. I thought about it a few minutes ago, and like when I was talking about the anti-Semitic history of the creation of Israel. And that reminds me of all of the horrible anti-Semitic things Bibi Netanyahu has said. Now, you might be thinking, like, oh, how is the prime minister of the Jewish state of Israel anti-Semitic? Well, Benjamin, I need to stop calling him Bibi. Benjamin Netanyahu is a Holocaust revisionist. Let me look this up so I can get direct quotes. Because one of the things he said was that the Holocaust was a gift from God so they could create Israel. Let's see. Here's a Vox article. Here's one. Benjamin Netanyahu blames the Holocaust on a Palestinian mufti. Wow. Yeah. Here, let me pull this up. I'm gonna unmute the thing.
And this attack and other attacks on the Jewish community in 1920 and 1921, 1929, were instigated by a call of the Mufti of Jerusalem, Haj Amin al-Husseini, who was later sought for war crimes in the Nuremberg trials because he had a central role in fomenting the final solution. He flew to Berlin. Hitler didn't want to exterminate the Jews at the time. He wanted to expel the Jews. And Haj Amin al-Husseini went to Hitler and said, if you expel them, they'll all come here. So what should I do with them? He asked. He said, burn them. And he was sought during the Nuremberg trials for prosecution. He escaped it. Later died in cancer after the war, died of cancer.
So yeah, blatant Holocaust revisionism, basically giving himself another excuse to kill Palestinians. Hitler obviously wanted to kill the Jews. It's like from the beginning, it's very obvious that he had a clear disdain for the Jews. The final solution is not, Patrick's solution where it's like, what if we take the Jews and push them somewhere else? Like that's not how Hitler was operating. If you read a little book called Mein Kampf, it's like very obvious. If you listen to translations of his speeches that he was giving while he was rising to power, then it's like very obvious that he wanted to kill the Jews pretty much from the start. That's not a wild thing to say. And and another piece of evidence to show that the origin of Israel is anti-Semitic. I mean, look at the fact that do y'all think Hitler's final solution is just called that for some reason? Like, his final solution is it's titled that way because in his mind, it was the final solution to deal with the quote-unquote Jew problem in Europe. So there are reasons for these things. And Benjamin Netanyahu is on record as being a Holocaust revisionist. He basically changes up the story of any Jewish related attack or like anything that has attacked Jews in some way. He tries to find a way to blame it on his enemies, even if it is ahistorical. So here, let me look at this. I'm trying to look up more quotes. Okay, maybe it's still in that article then. Let me see. I'm pretty sure he says something about the Holocaust was like a gift from God to create Israel or some horrible shit like that. Yeah. He's horrible. A new low. Israel's prime minister is the anti-Semites cheerleader. Here's an article. Is this a Jewish publication? Interesting. I'm reading an article about this. Yeah. Okay. Oh, I can't even read the full article. What the fuck? Oh, you can tell? Okay, yeah. The first sentence gives away that this is a Jewish publication. Because they say in the Jewish year 5783. Okay. Damn. Well, I don't know what the article says. That sucks. I wanted the quotes directly. Just go look it up. Look up Benjamin Netanyahu's statements about the Holocaust and all that related stuff. He's incredibly anti-Semitic. So So yeah, right now, the ceasefire is over. It seems that they are back to slaughtering Palestinians in untold numbers. It has been 1 day since the ceasefire has ended because Israel is ahead of me, obviously, in the time zones. So it has been literally 1 day, and they have already killed almost 200 Palestinians. Probably have already killed over 200 Palestinians. So, I mean, what do you even do? You know, I know there's Gaza relief funds and stuff. I mean, donate to those. I don't know how they're gonna reach the people in the Gaza Strip, but I'm sure they'll find a way. Um, what's the death toll in the West Bank? Because they are killing people in the West Bank. There's even stories of the IDF mistaking settlers as Palestinians. That article's super old. Wait, even if this article's old, I mean, that still shows that there were Palestinians killed in the West Bank. As of October 22nd, 90 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank. Also, I watched a heartbreaking news story, like special from Al Jazeera, where a reporter who happens to be Palestinian, whose father is from the West Bank, she went to the West Bank, and even though she's an American citizen, because she's Palestinian, she had to have like former IDF anti-Zionist like escorts with her. And it's super sad. Like, even with them, she still can't go to certain parts of the West Bank. Like, right off the bat, they get stopped by the IDF and like checked. It looks like apartheid South Africa. It looks like Jim Crow United States. There's like checkpoints everywhere. It looks just like it, but in color. You know. Let's see. I just want numbers on how many they've killed in the West Bank. As of November 2nd, 133 people have been killed in the West Bank. So what does the West Bank have to do with what does the West Bank have to do with this war? There's no Hamas in the West Bank. So what's the excuse there? If they're brown, they got to be terrorists or something? Like, what's the racist ass colonial excuse there, you know? I just wish it. I wish they would try to at least make it make sense. When the U.S. is doing, you know, horrific foreign policy, at least they like attempt to back it up with some bullshit that sort of makes sense, even if you can poke holes in it if you're like more educated than an eighth grader. But like the IDF isn't even trying. They released a propaganda video a couple weeks ago. I pulled it up while I was making breakfast, and I was like, no fucking way. Because even as an American, I was like, this person's not a Palestinian. They had an Israeli accent trying to speak Arabic. They were mispronouncing a lot of different Arabic letters and sounds, and so it just sounded like an Israeli giving a really bad Palestinian impression while speaking poor Arabic. It was that woman claiming to be in the Al Shifa hospital, wearing the wrong color stethoscope and claiming Hamas was there with like the stock explosion effects in the background. I wonder if I can actually find that IDF fake hospital video where that nurse is. There's another fake hospital video too where they're like walking around and they're like weapons stored in the MRI machine, and it's like, why the hell would they store metal weapons in an MRI machine? Let's see. Oh, another one where they point at a calendar and they're like, these are the names of Israelis that they're gonna target or whatever the fuck, and it's just like an Arabic calendar. If you translate the calendar, it's just a calendar. Like, it's just so easy for them to convince the Western audiences of this horseshit. Is there a good copy of this video on TikTok? Maybe. I'm trying to find the fake nurse video. Okay, here it is. I hope this is the right one. Okay, let me unmute it.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but the world has to know what Hamas is making here. They're taking over the entire hospital. They're taking over the fuel.
Listen to how quick the explosion cuts off. You know, it's so obvious.
They're taking over the fuel, the medicine. I have
It'll
nothing
happen
to
again.
treat with. I had to fix a fracture.
Dude, it's so pathetic. It sounds like Palestine to me. Oh my god, it's so pathetic. The and just like the dead silence afterwards. And they all sound the same. There's no way.
For a 5-year-old boy without morphine because Hamas took it to themselves. Ya Allah, please, if you hear me, please leave, run away, don't stay.
It's seriously, it's the same sound every time. Is it not? It's the same thing every time they play it. Also, how is that in any way a good look? Hey, look at this woman who's in fear of, like, supposedly in fear of, being tortured or whatever by Hamas. And we're going to bomb her and Hamas and all the kids in that hospital, and we're going to kill all the adults there too. Like, how is that a good how is that a good look on the IDF? Think about it like this, and I think I did this exact same analogy in the last episode. Think about it like this. If a school shooter is in a school and you see cell phone video of a teacher being like, help us, there's a school shooter, he's like 2 halls down, I'm fearing for my life, I fear for the lives of the kids that I'm watching after, and then all of a sudden you just heard boom in the background. What the fuck are we doing? We're just gonna like blow up the school? And then it turns out there's no shooter in the school. Like, when we have a hostage scenario, like someone robs a bank and they take hostages, do we just blow up the bank at that point? So, lots of people are dead in Gaza. 15,000 according to the Gazan Health Ministry. Here's an updated source. As of 4 days ago, 240 dead in the West Bank. According to some human rights organizations, it's estimated that it's possibly up to 20,000 possibly dead. 35,000-ish Palestinians are wounded from these attacks. And about 2 million Palestinians are all shoved into the southern tip of the Gaza Strip, which is like, the size of Washington, D.C. Imagine 2 million people packed into Washington, D.C., and then there are bombs raining down on them. Like, so that's the current info. So speaking of this conflict, speaking of other idiots, there's a TikTok trend where and look, they give themselves really bad outs. They can't really give themselves an out here because of how they made these videos. There's a trend right now that's not very like popular. It's like a very niche, but popular enough to be called a trend, where these people are anti-Israel, and then somewhere along the way someone radicalizes them a little too far right, where they're like anti-Israel but pro being an anti-Semite to some extent. And they're reading Osama bin Laden's letter to America. Now, I briefly mentioned it earlier, but if you want to know Osama bin Laden's motivations for 9/11, uh, he literally wrote about it. So anytime they're like, "He hated our freedom," or whatever the fuck they say, uh, go read his letter, and that'll tell you all you need to know about why he did what he did. Um, and apparently the attacks were inspired by. Actually, I'll get to that in a second. So there's a trend where, they're like, I read his whole letter, and oh my god, I realized he's right. And then you read the actual letter, and I really want to assume that they just found a version of the letter that was condensed and left all these parts out. I'm giving them a huge benefit of the doubt saying this, but that's my like hope. I don't want to think these people are actually pro Osama bin Laden. So, like, parts of the letter are that he doesn't like the U.S. Involvement in Saudi Arabia. He doesn't like the U.S.'s backing of Israel. Which, both somewhat agreeable, fair points. He doesn't like U.S. imperialism. But then it moves on to, like, he wants the U.S. to convert to, like, an Islamic nation and follow Sharia law. And then it's like he takes issue with, like, homosexuality in the country, which, I mean, at that point, the Republicans should love him when they're reading that part of the letter. There's a really weird part of the letter about interest-based, like, loans, I guess, which is really strange. I don't know why you would care that much about that. I would assume it has to do with, like, gambling or something. There's a lot of weird shit in the letter, and yeah, it's just like very, like, you don't want to agree with the whole letter. There are, like, points here and there sparingly where you're like, okay, he's anti-US imperialism, got it. He has his reasons. But then there are other parts of the letter where you're like, hey, so cuz he's, severely homophobic. So, in the letter. But speaking of the attacks, apparently, I just learned this. Apparently, the inspiration behind flying planes into buildings was that they were inspired by Israel destroying towers in Lebanon. A lot of people don't know, but Israel attacked other neighboring countries. I'm pretty sure they attacked Syria, Lebanon. I can't remember any others off the top of my head, but dude, Israel was on the war path in the 80s and, following in America's footsteps. And apparently that's what the attacks were based on, were the towers being brought down in Lebanon. But, Osama bin Laden's apparently not even the one that thought of that. He originally just wanted them to, like, crash planes, and then one of his guys who's in Guantanamo Bay right now was like, well, no, like, fly him into buildings. So I just thought it was interesting. There's a guy that made a 9/11 iceberg, and I think it's actually a really informative video. Let me see if I can find it. Plug it a little bit. 11 iceberg. So yeah, it's by Ramtro Studios, and yeah, it's really good. Okay, yeah. I wanted to cut to a shot that didn't involve a plane. So yeah, this guy's videos, Ramtro Studios, this is a really good 3-hour iceberg. So I really recommend it if you want to learn a lot about the attacks. But speaking of US foreign policy, 100-year-old Henry Kissinger died. So yay. He what is lukewarm? Yay. Oh, it's fine. I don't care. So, anyways, so yeah, so Henry Kissinger is the guy who's responsible for doing a bombing campaign on Cambodia and killing just a few 100,000 people. Bombing campaigns in other Southeast Asian countries. Responsible for the prolonging and brutal, uh, you know, like just the brutal prolonging of the Vietnam War. He's responsible for deaths that are in the millions, at the very minimum, 3 million. Probably higher than that. So, so a great guy. Yeah, he's very hated, unless you're a liberal or a conservative in the political sphere. Hillary Clinton likes him. Joe Biden likes him. All the Republicans like him. And he's basically imagine the Osama bin Laden of the rest of the world times 50. That's what Henry Kissinger is. Also, I love how I'm just connecting everything that I'm talking about. I go from Israel to transitioning into Osama bin Laden to transitioning into Henry Kissinger. They all relate in some way. So rest in peace, Bozo. Jimmy Carter got one of his final wishes, the death of his archenemy. Now we need him to live to 108 months. Or 7 months. If he can live that long, he will have outlived Henry Kissinger. I mean, he's already outlived Henry Kissinger, but he will have lived longer than Henry Kissinger. So, rip bitch. He lived too long. He should have been executed. I can say that now because he's dead. He should have been executed for war crimes 40 years ago. Let's be real. If the world was a just place, he'd be sitting in The Hague, on trial, convicted. He'd be in the same prison as any other war criminal. But because he's an American, he can get away with anything he wants. So, speaking of Jimmy Carter, so I saw that his wife died, and so I work somewhere in Atlanta, and my God, I'm just not gonna work the day of Jimmy Carter's funeral. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think I'm just not gonna work that day because the connector was so backed up. They had to, because here's the problem. They had to close off so much because not only did Jimmy Carter show up and he has his own Secret Service stuff, but the fucking president of the United States showed up, and the former first lady, and another former first lady, and another former first lady. All of them showed up, so they all have their own security detail. It's insane. They basically shut down like a giant chunk of Atlanta for that funeral. And I think I've decided, yeah, I'm just not going to work that day. It's fine if I just take that day off. So Jimmy, please have your funeral on like a Saturday or something. when I'm not able to work. Please, Jimmy. So anyway, that's my thoughts on current political stuff. I think I talked about enough that I needed to talk about in regards to Israel and the Palestinian genocide. It is a genocide, let's be for real for a second, you know. You don't just like indiscriminately bomb 15,000 civilians and then go, but guys, we got a few of them. Like, be real, you know. That's a ridiculous foreign policy strategy. Insane. Like, seriously, it's insane. I don't understand that. You know, think about any other military operation. Think about the precision it took to kill Osama bin Laden. Let's bring it full circle here. Why didn't we just drop a missile on the town? Oh, probably because it was too close to a Pakistani government building. But who cares? I mean, they're all brown. Let's just drop a bomb on the place. That's like the logic that Israel uses. You know. Oh, I heard Hamas is in that ice cream shop. Level the whole block. Kill everyone on the block. They've already been corrupted just being within 30 feet of the Hamas militant, you know. I saw psychopath Ben Shapiro saying shit like these children that were released from Israeli prison back into Gaza, these children are all like terrorists, basically, being released back into Gaza. He hates the ceasefire. I've already watched his video. He hates the ceasefire. And he like kind of subtly, but not too subtly, like basically just says that the children that they're putting back in Gaza are all terrorists. He calls so many people terrorists in his latest video. It might not be his latest video anymore, but the video I watched, he calls like almost every brown person on screen a terrorist. Ben Shapiro is like the most racist towards Palestinians. He's racist, but like, dude, his racism to Palestinians compared to his racism towards black people, it looks like he would marry a black person compared to how he treats the Palestinians. I mean, he's brutal, you know. Like, he has that infamous tweet, Israelis like to build stuff, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. Israelis like to build. That's like his famous tweet. And then he follows it up with, and by Arabs, I mean specifically Palestinians. Like, that's one of his most infamous tweets. It was brought up to him on the BBC when he went on there. And he tried to like back down from it. He was like, well, I made a thing on my website that says all the wrong things that the things I've gotten wrong. And then he called the BBC a liberal news network, which the guy he was talking to is a Tory, and an extreme conservative who now runs that like British conservative network that Niles Farage is on as well. And yeah, Ben Shapiro is like very infamous for hating Palestinians. I'm pretty sure a lot of his fan base is hating on him too, because they aren't down with it. Let me see, Ben Shapiro, because they're all saying it's like facts over feelings because he's Jewish. So like he's even getting attacked by his own fan base, which is like kind of ironic in a way. Because I think like people have tried to warn him about how his fan base will eventually turn on him if the right gets their way, you know. Where's the video? Epic response by Elon Musk. Oh my god, this dude does tricks on it. He does spinners. Damn, dude. know the difference between Israel and Ukraine? Yeah, one's an occupying imperialist force, while the other one's just a Eastern European country defending itself against a another superpower occupying force. Where's the video he made? He uploads so much shit. Let's see. I just want to see the like to dislike on these videos. Yeah. Do you know the difference between Israel and Ukraine? It's a 2.8 thousand to 1.9 thousand like to dislike ratio. Estimated. It's like a React series too. Where's the damn video? Shapiro. I saw the first one that he made when the conflict started and it got destroyed. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to find this shit. Oh yeah, he has a Here's the Truth About Israel Palestine that that a lot of people think is disgusting. Apparently he doesn't like Candace Owens right now, which is a little awkward because they work together. Ah, whatever, I'm not gonna find it. I just remember there being like a huge what's wrong with my brain right now? I just remember there being like a huge like to dislike ratio with like heavy dislikes. So, anyways, all right, that's my that's the video. That's the podcast. All right. Hope you made it this far. Hope you enjoyed. And I'll see y'all in the next one. Subscribe to the Patreon for bonus stuff and early releases, and sub to or follow us on Spotify and whatever other streaming platforms are. All right. Adios, Free Palestine.